Hello friends, so I wanted to do this video a little bit differently. I was trying to organize myself and seeing when would be best to record, and I realized that the time is now, the best time is now for today. So there's been so many just revelations that have occurred to me these past few days and weeks, and I really just want to share it with you and shine light on things that, even though it might seem like I'm experiencing it in my own personal life, like I know there's someone out there that may be experiencing something similar or just have gone through it in the past, and I've just been really motivated to share about what it's been like for me to truly embrace and love all parts of me. Because coming on here, like on camera, and sharing, talking about myself, and that, yes, that's my baby in her seat, I can understand how that can be perceived as like confidence, or just really just rooted. And I was not always like this, guys. I was not always like this. I struggled a lot with my confidence and my self-worth because of the fact that I was simply like tying it to somebody else. You good back there, girl? And I wanted to, just speak on that, because if you're someone right now that feels like they're struggling to love themselves, feels like maybe you have been doing the work and you have been, really committed and on this path, and you've been consistent, but there's still something there that you're just like, I don't fully see or feel like that version of myself that I know I can be and I know I am. And this can tie back to the concept of imposter syndrome. Like, a lot of times imposter syndrome, we can correlate that to maybe just like our interactions with others, if that makes sense. But a lot of the time, imposter syndrome can simply be you yourself, not feeling comfortable or not feeling rooted in who you are, because deep down you know who you are, but you haven't gotten to the point where you can fully surrender to that. And what has come up for me, like these past few weeks, is and this might resonate more with women, but this can resonate with men as well. There, in the collective, there is this deeply rooted shame, guilt, and also just what's that word, like tainted and distorted version of what it means to be connected to your body, and what it means to love your body, but also what it means to embrace your magnetism, and embrace your sensuality, and embrace just those more erotic parts of self. And if you hear my baby, she's just kind of like ready to get out of the car, so that's why she's whining. But that's been really present for me. That's been so present for me. And there's always been like this, I feel like there's a curiosity to really understand others in their expression of what it means to be magnetic, because that can kind of look a little bit different for people. And for me, I had mentioned this some time ago on my Instagram. For me, what I noticed was that I grew up in a family and noticed, like, within multiple generations of women, that there was just shame around being comfortable in your body and being expressive and really owning all of your femininity. And because I realized that, and I noticed how, because of that suppressed expression, or the perception of shame around it, or even just like dirtiness or like taboo or whatever, which again, that also stems in society, that also stems on like a grander collective level. Because I realized that, like, there was a direct correlation between that suppression and that perception of shame, and how that suppression showed up in different aspects of life. And also at the same time, how there was just harbored emotion that basically like transformed into something else, but it wasn't necessarily healthy, quote unquote healthy. And essentially everything is energy, like fundamentally on every level. Like if you go back to the basic, it's energy. So if there's one aspect of self that you don't necessarily like or feel comfortable with, like, even if you have a really good hold on hiding or suppressing that action or that way of perceiving that certain thing, will still show up in a different way. So for example, like, I noticed with the relationship that I had with my grandmother, that my grandmother is the type of woman who, she really enjoys being by herself, and also she has very strong opinions on other people, but more so on men. And that comes from, various things also in her life, her experience of men. But there was this underlying resentment and this underlying bitterness and this underlying distrust and this underlying just anger, that even if she became consciously aware of it or subconsciously aware of it, there is still that part that just kind of transformed into something else. And that could have transformed into that suppression of the feminine, that suppression of the full spectrum of the feminine, because femininity is so many different qualities. And obviously I can speak on this more because I'm a woman, but femininity also lives within men, and masculinity also lives within women. And it was just really interesting for me to experience this in like real time, because for so long I thought that most of the things that I was not as comfortable with, or not as like proud of, came from my inner masculine and the masculine. But coming to the certain revelations, it made me realize that more of that underlying limitation, or underlying just limiting beliefs and limiting perceptions, was really from this distorted look of the feminine and the feminine energy. So yeah, a lot of things have come up for me, especially, just during my high school years, because when I was in high school, because I experienced heartbreak, and I experienced what it was to really just shut out and suppress my emotion and sensitivity, or so I thought. Because of that, there was an aspect of self that was more present, and that aspect of self was very cold. That aspect of self was very manipulative. That aspect of self was very calculated and seductive in the ways that she communicated with guys, because there was this underlying part that was functioning from pain. So tying this back to how this impacts people on a grander scale, if you're a woman watching this, there is some point in time where you maybe have taken actions where you were not proud of, or also you knew you came from a place of anger or bitterness, or trying to prove, or trying to get even, or get revenge, or something that was just really like, it was not coming from love. And the reality is that the full spectrum of the feminine is not solely just, I guess, hearts and giggles. The feminine can be very destructive. The feminine can be very chaotic. The feminine can be very wild, and the feminine can be very scary. And if you are in a relationship and you have reached a level of comfort with your partner, you will know that. Or even if you have siblings, if you have a mother, you will know that the feminine is a full spectrum of creation. And that doesn't dismiss that some, like, as individuals, we have different expressions, and we may hold more of a certain type of expression. That's why there's different types of women, there's different types of men, but fundamentally there is this common energy that lives within all of us. So, and sometimes these different aspects of the feminine may show up in different parts of your life, because it may be needed, or you just may need to just be aware of it, and it starts to come in as part of your life, and you get to choose what to do with it. So part of sharing this is that, yeah, like it has been really weird to go back to, yeah, that was me at one point, and it doesn't dismiss the fact that those parts can still be there. And because of the work that I have done on myself, and because of the level of surrender and just the level of love and the space that I've been able to hold for myself, it is no longer coming from pure shame or pure anger or pure feelings of unworthiness. It is coming from the firm acceptance that I am a spectrum. I am not one thing, or I'm not the other thing. I'm a spectrum. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to put all my attention or energy into that one expression. But we as women, and men as well, men need to come to a point where they can see where they've done their wrongs. You can see where you've done your wrongs, right your wrongs. And also, don't stay in the shame spiral of what you did. Simultaneously, if you are someone who isn't the type to really reflect on the things that you've done, or isn't the type of person to maybe give as much importance, that doesn't mean that there are not aspects of your life or things mirrored to you in relationships that aren't present right now. Probably they're actually more present right now. You just haven't admitted to it. So as men and women coming together, it's so important to be able to love all of ourselves in order to share that love with others. Because I'm sure you guys have heard this quote: hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. So at any point where you come to a situation or a relationship or interaction where you either feel very hurt, like you're like, ouch, that was rude, that was disrespectful, that was not, that was just not it, and or you notice yourself and you catch yourself saying something that was rude or disrespectful or quote unquote out of character, or just from a place of fear or whatever it is, that will be less likely to occur if you can accept and see all of yourself and love all of yourself. If you can accept the part of you that may be an asshole sometimes. Maybe you're an asshole sometimes, and maybe in those moments you needed to be. Or maybe in those moments you reacted that way because, again, it either came from maybe a trigger of anger or fear or jealousy or whatever it is. Pride, entitlement, whatever it is. But it's not like, this isn't saying to excuse yourself for unhealthy habits and unhealthy behavior. It's rather saying, like, owning those imperfections, but consciously choosing to do better. Because it's one thing to like fully accept and love yourself, and you're still reacting or you're still acting in a way that is unkind to other people. Like that's not what I'm saying here. And I say this more for people who who tend to put the blame on themselves, the people who tend to be overly concerned of what someone else is thinking of them, the people who tend to overly self-criticize. This is more for you and reminding you that all of you is loved. All of you is loved. And I speak to you and I speak to myself because I understand that this is not an easy journey, and especially it is very difficult if you are someone who has decided to break generational curses and generational just limitations and beliefs that you understand do not serve the highest good and do not serve really just anybody, but especially the future generations that are to come. So you watching this have already come to that understanding that what has occurred in your family and what has occurred in your immediate environment or in your neighborhood or just in your surroundings, something needs to change. And you have also come to the realization that you are that change. You are that change. So that's the message for today. I'll see you guys on the next one.